Mr. President, you mentioned the ups and downs in the stock market, but do you and your tariff policies right now bear any responsibility for the turmoil we're seeing this week?
Biden gave us a horrible economy. He gave us horrible inflation, and I think the market was going to go very, very bad. If anything, I have a lot of very smart people, friends of mine and great businessmen. They're now investing because of what I'm doing.
What the heck is happening to the economy? If you've not been living under a rock, the markets have been getting cooked, down well over 10% on the S&P 500 and over 15% on the Nasdaq. If you guys don't know, that means they're more than likely going to be entering bear market. Now, a lot of people are panicking. A lot of investors are like, one, what is happening? Trump got elected. I thought he was going to get us all rich. What happened to pumping crypto, which is down horrendously? Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the altcoins have been getting completely destroyed. Don't worry, I got you. I'm gonna tell you exactly why this is happening and why there's a ton of opportunities in the markets that you do not want to pass up on. If you guys remember, I timed the exact bottom just about in the 2022 bear market. Not only that, also timed the exact top on the oil, all recorded on this YouTube channel. So today's video, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I'm doing, what's happening, and more than likely, what is the next future scenarios for the overall markets. But trust me, it's a long video. You're gonna wanna watch, like, comment, and subscribe down below because it helps me out a ton. Number one, let's talk about why is this happening? Trump was supposed to make us move, right? He was supposed to pump the markets. That's what he's known for, pump Trump. But what he has done to the markets is something completely different. Is implying tariffs on other countries such as Canada, Mexico, China, and now Europe as well. This scares the markets. Why? Because what do the markets love? The markets love government spendings. They want everybody spending money. The more the debt, the better. Why? Because the markets only care about the short term most of the time. They only care about how much can this big financial institution borrow, how much money is circulating in the markets for it to pump higher. And Trump is like, well, stop. The government spent way too much money. During 2020, we remember the government was spending money non-stop, and that's why the market was mooning. Trump's like, our United States national debt is way too high, and we need to chill. We need to cut a lot of his government spending. That's why he's introduced Doge, and that scares the market because less spending, lower GDP, which means lower money flowing to these companies that are trading. Now, Trump is playing this really smart. Why? Because he knows we have over $7 trillion in US debt. And guess what happened to US debt? Every few years, he needs to get refinanced, which means percent interest rate depends on how high or low the interest rates are. Now, when we talk about interest rates, everybody just thinks it's like your car, there's only one interest rate. While there is multiple interest rates, there is short term, such as 6 months, 1 year, that's like your credit card interest rates, and there's longer term interest rates, such as the 30-year ones, which is something like your house. Now, all interest rates are adjusted differently based on inflation and other things that are way above my pay grade. So these interest rates are tied very closely to bond yields, to shorter term bond yields to be precise, for this kind of refinance. So what Trump's plan is to get those bond yields, especially the 10-year yield, come down so he can refinance at a lower interest rate by making the markets sell off and quote unquote crash in the markets due to fear. What does that put pressure on? The other side of things, which is the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is who is in charge of deciding where interest rates should be. Now, they have been holding interest rates somewhat to a high level and have not really come off of it due to inflation being high and them wanting to lower it. That was the narrative for the past 2 years. Now, Trump feels like inflation has been cooling off, and the latest CPI has actually shown a 0.1% improvement to what was expected, which again kind of gives the green light for Jerome Powell, which he's the chair of the Federal Reserve, to lower these interest rates. So if they can lower the interest rates for the refinancing, that will mean that US government will be able to refinance at a much lower rates, which will save them billions of dollars. So Trump's playbook has been crush the markets, pump the bonds, and lower the interest rates so they can save money. He does not care for the short-term pain that the stock market will go through if they can save billions of dollars on the government side, because that has been Trump's agenda: save money for the government, lower the overall national debt by increasing tariffs, adding companies such as the Doge to cut excessive government spending. And this is what separates good investors versus bad investors. People that are short-term panicking versus looking at the long-term picture. Now, if you remember a while back, about 6 months ago, I made a video telling you guys I sold most of my long-term portfolio. A lot of people thought that I was crazy, but you have to understand the checks and balances that the government and the Federal Reserves play under. They play this game of tug and war of interest rates rising, inflation, spending, ending and Wall Street investors are just reacting from that. Now, being 3 to 6 months in advance usually tends to give you the best time to sell or to buy. Now, sometimes you might be a little bit early, but a right bit early, then miss the whole move. If we look at the 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year timelines on any time the S&P 500 has lost 10% or more, we can see that it's always been a green return after the 10% drop, especially the 5 year. Worst case scenario is you make 59%. Isn't that a pretty good worst case scenario? It means you beat inflation by almost 10 folds. Guys, the best time to buy is during panic, during when the market goes down. 10 best day in history for the stock markets. Buy stocks were the 10 worst day in the markets. While the short-term markets can be very unpredictable unless you're day trading with me, link will be down below, the long terms are actually quite predictable, which means at any point in history, even if you're at the exact top of 2020 or 2008, if you just held for 7 years minimum, you would have been back to green on the stocks. We also have to differentiate the economy versus the market. Yes, the markets are currently taking a bit of a hit, but if we look at the economy, it's looking stronger than ever. If we look at the average savings of an American, it's up 0.5% since Trump took office about 3 months ago. If we look at price of eggs, oil, and many other things, it's actually lower from when Trump took office. So now all this money is going to be saved up. And what does that mean? It builds a huge stockpile on the sideline that will eventually be spent. When that gets spent, guess what happens? Exactly, bull run. At the end of the day, we have to understand that the stock market is just simply humans' emotions playing in effect. And if we can understand how humans think, we can actually have edge in the market and become smart long-term investors. Now the question becomes, Antonio, what the hell are you buying? Don't worry, I got you. I'll give you a basket of stocks that you should be investing in. Number 1 and number 2 are always going to be the same. 40% of your portfolio should always be in S&P 500 and or NASDAQ. This is going to be your safe bets. You're never going to go wrong with this. Then you should have 15% into crypto. What are the two safe? Number 1 is going to be Bitcoin and a little bit of Ethereum. Do not waste your money on altcoins because long term they never outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum and they're way too volatile. Now that's 65% of your portfolio. You're going to buy 10% more of gold. Gold is a really good asset to hold long term and very safe. That is 75%. Now the last 25% is where you can be a little more aggressive with companies that you like. I'll name you a handful, but you can go out there and do some research and find some more that you like. Tesla, Nvidia, AMD, Apple, Microsoft. If you want to be a little more aggressive, PLTR or Coinbase. That's 7 right there. And I'll leave you a link down below with my overall portfolio that's outperformed the S&P 500 every single year. The link will be down in the description. Now remember that having a long-term outlook is very difficult. Why? Because as humans, we just want the next thing here, ready, tomorrow. We have a really hard time looking for long-term investments opportunities. But I need you guys to fight your own urge to be scared and start acting accordingly, and I promise you in 5 years you will thank yourself. I had someone tell me, hey Antonio, we're going through a recession or we're going to go into a recession. Why would we buy at this point? I told them, if I gave you an opportunity to go back to 2009 in the peak of the recession after the housing crashes, would you buy stocks? And your answer would be like, hell yes, I put every single penny. I'll take out loans to buy those stocks. But in the moment, you would have thought panic, recession, and be scared. Do not put yourself in that situation. Dollar cost average, guys. Don't go all in at once. Slowly buy the dips as you're dipping. A really easy way to outperform the stock market is just anytime the S&P 500 closes minus 1% or more, you simply just buy that dip with a little bit of money that you can afford every single week. Hope you learned something. Hope you're going to be smart investors. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.